Got a few windows open.
Thank you.
I can gather
Okay,
it.
so we have 3 members. Okay.
Rhonda, I don't know if Rafi counts for quorum since he's an alternate.
No,
Okay,
sorry.
okay. No, that's okay. No, I'm just making sure. So how, we've got,
We have 3 member
Three,
seats
yeah.
represented so far.
okay, and we
I
need
will,
5, is that right?
yes.
Okay,
I'm expecting 6, so hopefully 2 people. 1 more.
Will I mention?
Okay.
And Jan.
Okay,
And Greg Clifton.
okay. So 1, 2.
we good? I think I've got 5.
Yes, we
Okay.
are good.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to the June 1st, 2023 TAC meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask that Rhonda do roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the TAC. Coconino County, Tiffany Kerr.
I am here.
Thank you. Coconino County Citizen Representative Carol Covington.
I too am here.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Greg Clifton.
Good morning, present.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff Citizen Representative Michelle James.
Good morning, I'm here.
And her alternate Carlton Johnson.
Here.
Thank you. Metro Plan Dave Wessel. Dave, are you with us? Maybe muted?
Yes, I am here. Good morning.
Great, thank you. NAU, Aaron Stum,
Here.
and her alternate Rafi Rivera.
Present.
Thank you. NAU student Maria Matchler, the new ASNAU president, is on break. CCC Kurt Stoll and Tony Williams are both excused. And Economic Development Representative Gail Jackson is also excused. There are members of the staff in the room, in the Vera room here at Mountain Line and on Zoom. And we do have Chris Beecher, our legal counsel for Mountain Line, with us today as well.
Wonderful.
Good morning.
Hi, welcome everybody. We will move along to our safety minute with Sam Short.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Transit Advisory Committee. So June is National Safety Month, and it's time to get serious about promoting safety in the home, workplace, and community. The observance was created by the National Safety Council in 1996 to raise awareness about the importance of safety. From identifying potential hazards in your home to practicing safe driving habits while out on the road, there are many ways we can all make a difference when it comes to keeping ourselves and those around us safe. Let's make June a month that encourages everyone to take action and prioritize safety. Here are a few ways you can help celebrate National Safety Month. Start by making safety a priority in your home, workplace, and community. Make sure that you are following safety protocols and that you are encouraging others to do the same. Sit down with your family and create a safety plan for your home, workplace, or your community. Think about what steps you can take to be safe and make sure everyone knows what to do in case of an emergency. An example of that would be making sure your family's aware of the Ready, Set, Go evacuation plan that the emergency management team in Coconino County has. Take the time to educate yourself on safety protocols and best practices. Research different topics such as fire safety, flood safety, and personal safety. Like making sure your family knows if you're in a flood zone area. Make sure that any equipment you use is up to date and in good working order. Check smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, fire alarms, and other pieces of equipment to make sure that they are working properly. Share safety tips with friends and family. Talk about how important it is to be safe and how we can all benefit from taking steps to protect ourselves. National Safety Month helps to make sure that everyone is following best practices when it comes to being safe. By promoting preventative measures such as wearing seatbelts, staying away from dangerous areas, and learning about common hazards like fires or slips and falls, we can all work towards creating a safer environment for ourselves and those around us. Thank you and welcome to the June Transit Advisory Committee meeting.
Thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Next item is approval of the TAC minutes from April 6th. First, just to see if anybody had any comments or questions on the minutes that were in the packet.
Actually, Erin, we have the call of the public.
Oh, I'm so
first.
sorry. So call to the public. Thank you, Rhonda. Geez, Louise, call to the public. So this is for anybody that wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda. Is there anybody in the public wishing to speak on an item not in the agenda?
We do not have any members of the public present at this
Thank
time.
you. Perfect. Thanks, Rhonda. Now let's move on to approval of the TAC minutes. Any comments or questions first? Do the pregnant pause.
Mhm.
Hearing and seeing no hands. If I can get a motion to approve.
So moved. This is Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Can I get a second?
Carol, let's be glad to second.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks, folks, for saying your names. That's really helpful for Rhonda as she's taking all of this. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes are so approved. Thanks, folks. Moving on to our business agenda. The first topic on our business agenda is the zero fare policy. Heather.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of our Transit Advisory Committee. I'm going to leave my computer down. Thanks. So as you may recall, I did bring this topic to the TAC in April. However, before the April board meeting, had a lot of late night thinking about this particular topic, and I ended up pulling it from the April board agenda. So I'm here today to give you an update on really a change in recommendation that we will be making to the board of directors later this month regarding next steps to consider making Mountain Line zero fare. For everyone that is unfamiliar, zero fare means that we would no longer collect fare payment or sell passes in order to we would no longer sell those to our riders, and they would be able to board and use our systems free of fare. Nothing happening. So a couple of the considerations around zero fare is that zero fare transit service is a method to expand equitable access to transit services. And as you may recall, about 68% of Mountain Line riders, they have been a little bit higher than that in the last survey, are transit dependent, meaning they have no other transportation options. So removing fare increases their access to the transit system, and all individuals who spend money in our community pay for transit through the transit tax, which is a sales tax in the city of Flagstaff. Free fare is also used by many transit systems as a means to rebuild ridership. When you remove the barrier of fares, it does encourage people to try transit that would otherwise be hesitant to try transit. Do I have the right change? How does fare work? What is it going to look like when I'm bored? All of those concerns. And the third reason to really look at zero fare is that it is a key measure in reducing household transportation cost. Several years ago, AAA did a study and estimated that car ownership is about $10,000 annually. I will again say a couple of years ago, we anticipate that number would be significantly higher with today's fuel cost, increase in maintenance costs and other things. So if one household can replace a car with transit service, then that can mean the difference between affordable housing in our community and not being able to afford purchase of a home. So again, zero fare changes some of those strategies for our community and riders. Can you click again? I'm gonna move, I don't know.
They're doing 2 slides then.
Yeah, this is not working. Do you go back one? Sorry, we're having mouse difficulties.
Okay, so that was on the
Okay, one more. Okay, so the benefits of zero fare, when we look at considerations, some of these are repetitive, but transit is really a public service or utility. By offering zero fare, we strengthen that statement. You pay for road services through vehicle license taxes. You pay for transit through sales tax. Why is there an additional fee for that public service or utility? It reduces the conflict between rider and driver. We regularly have issues on our vehicles. The rider doesn't have the fare, is fumbling for the fare, creating that opportunity for there be both a conflict and a delay in service, which is the next bullet point. We can change how long a bus sits at a bus stop. Currently, we have to count for, if you're boarding 100 people and they're all digging $1.25 out of their pocket, how long is that bus going to sit at a bus stop? If you remove fares, you're able to change that strategy in planning routes and route timing. Reducing the cost of fare collection. So on the screen are some of the costs that we have associated with fare collection, and we are very fortunate. We do not have a large investment in fare collection. We have a drop cash system. It's really an honor-based system. Our drivers do the best they can to look in the little window and make sure it's the $1.25. Oftentimes it's $1 and a slug. Sometimes it's pennies and you have no idea if it's $1.25. But we have not invested in fare collection boxes that count that for you because those average about $25,000 per vehicle. So we've really made that part of our strategy of fare collection. But we do still have other fees. We do have a system that costs us money per month. We pay for a service to provide us with our ridership data out of fare collection. We have the banking fees and the transportation fees associated with that. So if you go to zero fare, you're able to save all of that. I think I mentioned in April, roughly $100,000 in cost, over $600,000 in revenue. So it's not a direct offset. And then lastly, that same comment I made earlier, removing that barrier to transit service. Next slide. So what happened between my presentation in early April and my decision to table it is really looking at the concerns about zero fare and the timing. And I will say a lot of this is about the timing of zero fare. As I mentioned in April, there is the perception of the public about riders not paying their fair share for use of transit services. We all know we pay for the roads through our vehicle license tax, but you still pay to own that car. And so is there an equitable reason to have fares for transit service? Increase in riders using transit as shelter. This is an internal concern. So maybe we remove the conflict over the fares at the door, but do we now end up with a lot of people that are riding without destination, that are using the vehicle as a shelter from the heat, from the cold, from the weather elements, or for socializing, which does happen on our vehicles on a pretty regular basis. But some other things that we talked about, bus capacity, is there enough capacity for an increased demand? Could we continue to serve our schedule and the number of people wanting service if we were zero fare? We want more riders, but are we really ready with the size of our vehicles and our frequency? We would need to have more staff available. So this is increased costs, or may save on fare costs, but now have increased costs for staffing because we have to have ambassadors out in the field to help with some of the conflicts that happen when you have riders that are riding without destination. But the most important reason for reconsidering the original recommendation in April is we are going to be going to the voters potentially in November of 2024 and asking them to either extend and or expand the transit tax. And there is a concern about the mixed message of going zero fare now, willingly reducing our revenue by $600,000 while telling the voters we don't have enough money to provide NAH, to expand services, or even to extend, to continue to pay for the services that we have in place. Next slide. So really our recommendation to the board is going to be do not alter our existing fare structure, our revenue structure that is crucial to our current and future operations. And that really goes back to, I don't have a method to replace those fares if we go to zero fare at this time. Next slide. I did include in the staff report for the board's consideration that there are several other options to just not do anything. We, again, are not recommending that we do any of these, but the board could choose to explore one or more of these. Our current strategic plan says that staff will work towards replacing fare. And so we will continue to do that as part of our strategic plan and effort. That is, if you're following other systems that are looking at zero fare, City of Tucson is one of them in Arizona. And what they are doing is strategizing with their local partners on replacing those fares because they don't have public funding to just go fare free or to zero fare. So there are several options that we can do. The big one is I need direction from the board on a work plan item, which was to demo or pilot a zero fare program for high school, K through 12 and college students. And I would like the board to get really clear on whether they want us to enact that pilot program or also delay it as part of further consideration of zero fare. And with that, that's everything that I have to present on this change in direction since I was before you in April on this item. And I know I'll stop briefly because I know Rhonda has some public comments. And Chair Stom, I don't know if you want us to read those public comments on this particular item now, or if you would like to first ask questions.
Let's first ask questions or give comments. And just a reminder for this group is that we don't vote or give direction, but we do ask good questions to help Mountain Line with their presentation to the board. So comments or questions first for Rhonda. Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. As staff prepares for the tax question, will they be in, how will they incorporate potential zero fare into formulating the tax question? I guess meaning, you know, you go to the voters, you get a new tax, and then you think about tax zero fare, and you're still faced with the same question, you know, just deferred. How do we replace those revenues? So are you thinking about folding in this whole policy question into the tax question?
The short answer is yes. So our goal is to include zero fare and questions around zero fare in our survey of likely voters that we will be conducting this summer. The information obtained through that will help us then get clear with the Citizen Advisory Commission on whether that move to zero fare would sway voters or not. That's an important piece of it. If that survey work does show support for going to zero fare, then we will certainly include it along with all the other funding considerations for expansion of service, et cetera. The one thing we don't want to do, and I think this is to your point, Advisor Wessel, is not to consider it all and then in 2025 not be able to introduce zero fare because we still don't have a replacement of funding. So those will be happening in parallel paths, if you will, surveyed, included in a potential tax question, but we will not stop looking at what are other partnerships in the community that we could form to replace that revenue.
Thank you. And a follow-up. In your options, you discuss pilots.
Yes.
And what's staff's perspective on those pilots providing you and the board information you would need
Thank you.
ahead of the November tax.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I certainly think we could do any of the pilots and gain additional information. I think there are several reasons that we're not recommending it. I'll walk through those with you. The first is it's very hard to pilot and take it away. We know that as we had a pilot CCC pass program introduced 7 years ago, that we continue to honor because it's very difficult to take away from the students and that organization. So have to be very careful about when we put a pilot in place, knowing the risk of the perception of us taking it away later, and pilots in our mind should be around the first step to going to permanency. And I don't know that we're ready to answer the question about permanency regarding zero fare. So it's one of the limitations. The other thing about pilots is a lot of these pilot questions were put forth because they were thoughtful and considerate, but several staff here have pointed out that we actually piloted zero fare for 6 months in 2020. And so we do kind of know what zero fare does. There are a lot of studies around the nation about what zero fare can offer you in regards to the things that I brought up. Reduced cost of collecting fares, change in ridership, and then reducing dwell time and what we might be able to do with that dwell time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Heather, thank you for mentioning the difficulty of taking away something after it's been given, because that was initially my thought and concern with doing any of the pilots. Any other comments or questions before we have Rhonda read the letter? Okay, Rhonda.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. So I'm going to do these in date order, but there are some identical duplication, just the person submitting it is different. So I'll read the date and the name of the identical comments. One person has submitted 3 letters that are essentially identical. And so I was going, because the support for this cause has grown, I thought I would read verbatim the final letter with all of the names included thus far. So I'll explain as I go. So Jason Kordowski, email Saturday, March 21st, or I'm sorry, March 11, 2023. And he asked the clerk of the board to forward letters to the appropriate NAPTA board of directors, including alternates. And so this was the first of his letter that I mentioned. There 3 times he has submitted and they are identical. So I will wait to read that as the final one that was just received. Then we have Soul Battle, email Thursday, March 16th, 2023. Excuse me. Dear Metro Plan Executive Board and NAPTA Board of Directors, please help us make Mountain Line bus fare free. Cities across the country are removing fares from public transportation, from Tacoma to Albuquerque to Boston. The fare-free model is implemented to increase ridership, boost local economies, reduce environmental impact, and provide transportation for low and middle income workers and families who often can't afford to drive a car or 2 as they face rising housing costs and inflation. The price of making Mountain Line fare-free is low compared to the benefits it can provide to our community, economy, environment, and traffic. Will you join us in making Mountain Line bus fare-free? And I should note this a lot of the emails come from no reply at freemountainline.org as their email. And identical message to what was just read from Brian Dales, Saturday, April 1st, 2023. And then also identical, Monday, April 3rd, 2023, from Hong Wen. And then also identical message from Aaron Hebert, Monday, April 17th, 2023. Jason Kordowski, Tuesday, April 18th, 2023, asking for this letter to be read at the NAPTA Board of Directors meeting on April 19th. And he actually did join Zoom that day and read the letter aloud to the board. And again, that's one or the second of the three that he submitted. The most current I'll read to you at the end. Kyle Nitschke, Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. Dear Transit Advisory Committee, my name is Kyle Nitschke and I have lived in Flagstaff since 2015. Please join us in making Mountain Line bus fare free. I rode the bus quite regularly in college and have since not ridden the bus much. A few weeks ago, I took the time to ride the bus, but stuck to NAU routes because I wouldn't have to pay. I believe if Mountain Line buses were fare free, I would ride more often and use it to get more than just around campus/Woodlands Village. And Jason Kordowski, Tuesday, May 16th. And this is a letter that he wrote to be read at the joint meeting, but we didn't have a call to the public. And again, it's the same letter. So I will read the final one here shortly. Murphy James, Monday, May 22nd, 2023. And this was an identical message to the original short message that I've been reading. Robert Scott Singleton, Thursday, May 25th, 2023. Dear NAPTA Transit Advisory Committee, please help us make Mountain Line fare free. Cities across the country are removing fares from public transportation from Tacoma to Albuquerque to Boston. The fare free model is implemented to help increase ridership, boost local economies, reduce environmental impact, and provide transportation for low and middle income workers and families who often can't afford to drive a car or two as they face rising housing costs and inflation. Price of making Mountain Line fare free is low compared to the benefits it can provide to our economy, environment, and traffic. Will you join us in making Mountain Line fare free? I'm a Flagstaff resident. I'm writing to share my support for a fare-free Mountain Line bus. I am homeless. I stay at Flagstaff Shelter Services. I can be more involved in the community if I did not have to walk 10 miles a day to get around. Also, I feel as though I can be more productive if I had free transportation. I don't currently have an income. I think this would be very empowering for most people. Will you please share my message with the CEO and board of directors? Thank you for your time. Mariana Alvarez, Friday, May 26, 2023. Again, that initial same identical message. And then Jason Kordowski, Wednesday, May 31st, 2023. And this is the letter that I will read in its entirety. The NAPTA Transit Advisory Committee. Dear NAPTA Transit Advisory Committee, we write to encourage you to make Mountain Line bus fare free. Cities across the country are removing fares from public transit from Tacoma to Albuquerque to Boston to increase ridership, boost local economies, reduce environmental impact, decrease traffic congestion, and provide transportation for low and middle income workers and families who often can't afford to drive a car or two as they face rising housing costs and inflation. And the move often makes financial sense. Will you join us in making Mountain Line fare free? Nearly 1 in 5, 17.4% of Flagstaff residents were living in poverty in 2021, 1.5 times the national rate of 11.6%. Researchers find that access to public transportation is one of the most important factors in determining a person's ability to rise out of poverty, stronger than crime, elementary school tax test scores, or the percentage of two-parent families in the community. Fares comprised only 8% of Mountain Line's operating revenues in fiscal year 2022 and 5% in 2021. Corvallis, Oregon began its fare-free bus system in 2011, when fares were 11% of its operating revenues. Kansas City started its fare-free bus system in 2019, when fares were 12% of its operating revenues. A fare-free Mountain Line bus system could have been possible with $616,000 additional funding in fiscal year 2022, $275,000 in 2021. The cost of transitioning to a fare-free system is typically much less after accounting for the expense of collecting fares and the improved efficiencies of operating fare-free. Kansas City was spending $2 to $3 million annually to collect $8 million in fares, for example. Cities often find creative ways when necessary to offset the cost of fare-free systems through grants, special tax districts, private sector sponsors, transit fees added to water bills to reduce administrative costs, and more. The price of making Mountain Line fare-free is low income compared to the benefits it can provide to our community, economy, environment, and congested roadways. Will you join us in making Mountain Line fare-free? Sincerely, and I will read all the names. Aaron Hilton, Aaron Hughes, Adam Curzon, Alex Lau, Alexis Boyd, Alicia Henry, Amy Bacon, Andy Montano, Annette Neisted, Anya Askew, Ariana Serrera, Arjuna Parks, Arthur Cook, Audrey Zanini, Basil Sin, Ben Kajanuma, Bianca Sultan, Brandon Begay, Brian Dales, Brianna Frisbee, Brian Baird, Caleb Duncan, Carrie Steele, Kathy Small, Celestia Tissa, Celia Demolin, Chris Gilbert, Christine Lemkin, Cindy Broswell, Cynthia Benali, David Rasmussen, Delbert Biwang Yam Chua, Desiree Perry, Diane Moore, Dion Charlie, Donald Lobb, Dusty Yamaguchi, Edward Schultz, Aaron Hebert, Aaron Kovac, Farah Diffie, Gino Keems, Gerald Wood, Glenda Dan, Gordon Hanson, Gregory Levi, Hong Wen, Jacob Smith, Jalen Redhair, Jalissa Ingram, James Apple, or Appel, James McDermott, Jan Flemons, Jason Kordowski, Jeffrey Harris, Jenny Gormley, Jeremy Soul, Jesse Finch, Joan Dewey, Joe Bedoni, John Woodcock, Jose Salas, Justin Coffey, Kay Schultz, Katie Tolman, Kedron Weber, Keith Camps, Kelly Cerveco, Kelly Poe Wilson, Kenley Reynolds, Kevin Turney, Kevin Getty, Kavan Smith, Kyle Nitschke, Lauren Tomlinson, Leah Cox, LaDonte Harris, Linnell Hamechua, Madison Marin, Madison Dixon, Mariana Alvarez, Marilyn Sensioso, Marisol Holder, Matthew Lemkin, Megan Dales, Melanie Washburn, Melissa Polaka, Michael Bischoff, Michael Rulon, Michael Purnell, Michelle Purnell, Michaela Hastings, Mike Altland, Mitchell Hunyuet, Moon, Strange Weather, Morgan Malik, Naomi Garcia, Neil Galloway, Nicole Hilton, Nora Dunbar, Knox Chekuti, OJ, Sari Aunt Nucci Ellen, Paradise Lujan, Pedro Pena, Raquel Doherty, Ray Sistello, Richard Dibble, Riley Hamilton, Robert Scott Singleton, Rory Coblin, Ryan Nelson, Ryan Dawson, Riley Hughes, S. Wesley, Sarah Manassa, Scott Price, Sean Ortiz, Teresa Boone Schuler, Thomas Isaacson, Tony Yellowhair, Veronica Otera, Walter Kaya, Wesley Sleet, Xylia Newsom, and Zach Dan. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. I mean, I will just share for my own thought is I fully support the concept of going to zero fare. We have to figure out the logistics. And I think Heather's point that I hadn't thought about is how it would look if going for a transit tax. And so I think we need to figure that out before we move forward. And again, I would be hesitant to do a pilot if we have to end up having to take it away or change it. I think that sends a worse message. Other comments or questions on this topic? Greg.
Thank you. And thank you, Rhonda, for reading all of that. I agree with the comments just made. I think it really kind of raises the eyebrows if we structure a tax question about the same time that we're talking about going to no fares. So I'm questioning that as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Rafi.
Thank you. I wanted to ask Heather, or maybe take a step back just for a moment. I didn't hear this, and if hopefully I may have missed it, but there was a portion where I was wondering if there was any consideration to taking maybe a stair-step approach. And I know this could be for the future. And what I mean by that is like starting with eliminating fares for like veterans, and then moving to high school students, and then moving to at-risk customers, for example, that, you know, then you strengthen the relationship, and then you can draw back from those partnerships and communicate in the community when you implement this later on. So I didn't know if there was a stair-step approach that had been thought about, or if there's anything in the mix for that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. In our research on zero fare, we certainly found models of doing exactly what you're describing. And one of the first things that they do is they actually take groups and move them into reduced fare. So currently our reduced fare program, there's only several eligible categories: disabled, Medicare, and K through 12, or under the age of 18, sorry, not K through 12. So one idea that the board could explore is they could tell us to move veterans or low-income households, that's similar to the group that's in the bottom bullet here. Your first step to go to zero fare could be to move those individuals, those groups, into reduced fare. And then phase 2 could be to make reduced fare zero fare, and then introduce other groups, that kind of stair-stepping that you are talking about, Rafi. So that's certainly an option. I think those are all things that we need to explore. And really my recommendation to the board is let's get the survey work done. Let's understand how the voting public perceives zero fare, and then really come up with a plan of what are the next steps. I think that as we even move groups from regular fare to reduced fare, there's a fare impact. So that's a revenue decrease. And when we take those same groups and move them from reduced fare to zero fare, there's a revenue impact. And so we have to identify and understand that and be prepared for how are we replacing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this topic? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. Next is FY24 proposed budget with Josh Stone.
Thank you, Chair Stowe, and good morning, members, all the members of the TAC. So today is a summary of the proposed fiscal year 2024 budget for consideration, and then later this month they'll be presented to the board for final approval. So over the last several months, the first half of 2023, we have reviewed the different portions of the budget with both the Transit Advisory Committee and the Board of Directors, including workforce expenses in February, the remainder of operating expenses in March, capital expenditures in April, and then last month in May, an overview of revenue sources. So all of these were sort of outlined and discussed in more detail in each of those meetings. No changes or updates have been made since those presentations. And they were submitted to partners based on the eventual approval that we hope to receive. So some highlights for the, Rhonda, you can move to the next slide. Some highlights for the workforce budget include a pay plan with average anniversary increases of 4% for staff. Some adjustments to our pay ranges based on a recently completed compensation study. The workforce budget also makes some adjustments for health insurance. Some employee benefits are, several of our employee benefits are provided through our cooperative agreement with the Northern Arizona Public Employee Benefit Trust. And the trust members this year approved a 5.5% increase on average for health insurance plans. Mountain Line has also budgeted to increase the employer share of health insurance premiums so that they're at parity with what the city of Flagstaff and Coconino County provide as a match for their employees. So depending on the plan the employee participates in, this can result in a direct increase in take-home pay for the employees. And we hope that this will be sort of helpful in when considering the overall cost of living for employees. The remainder of the operating budget includes a liability insurance increase of $145,000. Insurance is sort of an area that's a necessary expense. We also have very few options available to us and have seen ongoing increases for several years. So there's not a huge amount of control that we have over that, and it's unfortunate that it continues to increase, but at someday it may stabilize. We're not sure. Other significant operating budget increases are for our maintenance program. Vehicle maintenance, parts and supplies, due to supply chain and just inflation of cost of goods overall. And then facilities maintenance, where we contract out janitorial services. That contract has had an increase due to the somewhat large city of Flagstaff minimum wage increase for minimum wage adjustment for the 2023 calendar year. Other than that, for the operating budget, we have pretty much tried to reallocate expense budgets to where they're needed the most and reduce and keep other expenses flat. So that's pretty comprehensive of all the changes. Some highlights for the capital budget. Capital expenditures typically are not allowed or planned to move ahead without securing federal grant funding that usually provides up to 80% of the cost of the project. The largest capital project for 2024 is the Downtown Connection Center which is about $33 million, I believe. We have about $7 million in budget capacity for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure projects in partnership with the city of Flagstaff. Mountain Line secured a grant for these improvements, and the capacity in our budget includes local matching funds from the city instead of our own transit tax fund. And then in partnership with NAU, we have a CDL training course that is under construction. We anticipate being used by multiple agencies for training. That should wrap up in the fall. And then finally, we have a variety of planning and smaller capital improvement projects to maintain our assets in a state of good repair. So of the $52 million in capital budget, 47 million of that is carry forwards that were for projects that were budgeted and approved in the fiscal year 2023, being moved to the 2024. So these are, our DCC where design and contract awards are still being completed before the larger construction expenses occur. So I would anticipate this might be our largest carry forward ever that we will ever have. Hopefully we don't have any giant projects like that for quite some time. So finally, Rhonda, you can move to the next slide. Our City of Flagstaff Transit Tax Fund balance, just to demonstrate our financial outlook and sustainability. Fund balance money is used for operating expenses as well as typically required local match dollars after federal, state, and other awarded funds are spent on various projects. The blue line is our projection that should the budget be adopted and capital projects move forward as planned through the next several years, we had built up a larger balance while pending capital spending and more robust transit tax receipts through the pandemic and after a little bit. Projections provided by the City of Flagstaff for transit tax receipts for the coming years are quite a bit more stabilized and don't have as large of a growth. The balance does start to take a more pronounced dip in the 2028 area, 27-28 area, where we may be able to build out phase 2 of the Downtown Connection Center, which is a more comprehensive overhaul of like the bus bay area and other parts east of the currently under construction building area. Some of that timing is dependent on the City of Flagstaff and Army Corps of Engineers and everyone working on the Rio projects and other projects in the area, and securing capital grant money for the project. But we've budgeted our side for now. So that brief recap, we'll be asking the board for approval later this month of the fiscal year 2024 proposed budget of $64,473,982. So I don't really have anything else to say other than thanking everyone, staff, TAC members, board members, community members, lots of people who provide input on the budget throughout the whole year. So it takes a while to put it together and then put it out there.
Thank you, Josh. Comments or questions for Josh on the FY24 budget? Okay, seeing none. Thanks, Josh. Next item, disadvantaged business enterprise goal for federal fiscal year 24 to 26. Heather Higgins.
Sam, sorry, and members of the TAC. I'm Heather Higgins. I am the Contracts and Purchasing Officer and also this is a mouthful, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Liaison Officer. So we have just, Ronnie, can you go to the next slide for me? And then the next one. So we are required by the FTA to do a triennial DBE goal for the organization. And this year, and I apologize if I'm stammering or stuttering a little bit. The last time that I presented to the TAC or the board was 3 years ago when I did this last time. So yes, so this is just kind of an overview of how we go about setting the goal by reviewing the financial and capital plan to identify our upcoming contracting opportunities and what some of our contract values are and what type of projects we are going to be doing moving forward into the next 3-year period. So we went through the NACE codes to identify what projects in our area specifically, what firms would be available to bid for those. And then we did some factoring based on that. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So this was kind of the initial step. So it's how we determine the weight of each type of work by the NACE code and totaling up, as you can see, our FTA assisted contract funds for each of these identified categories. Next slide, Rhonda. And then this is step 2, determining the relative availability of DBEs by NACE code. So for this, I went into the name of the system is escaping me, but where we're able to search for DBEs specific to that NACE code, who is available in our area, able to do that versus all firms, including the DBEs who are able to do the work. And that total came out to an overall availability of 0.0296. Next slide, Rhonda. Step 3 is weighting the base figure. And so that is just calculating out where we are in terms of DBEs that are available for the work that we do, and use that figure to advise the ultimate DBE goal that we set for the next 3-year period. Run the next slide, please. And then this is our past participation that we also use to help advise that goal. We have had in the last few periods 6.41 participation, which is a little interesting because it is a little bit higher than our previous goal of 3%, and it is higher based on one vendor. We had one DBE vendor in 2022 or 2021 that had a fairly significant payment. And so that did, just on that one vendor, raise our total participation pretty significantly. Next slide, Rhonda. So based on all of these different evaluation methods and determinations and considerations, the proposed updated goal for fiscal year 24 through 26 is 6%. The goal was made public on May 25th, posted to the Mountain Line website, sent to our registered vendor list that, if I'm recalling correctly, was about 557 individual groups, and has been posted to the Daily Sun, which will be running every Friday throughout the comment period. We have not received any comments at this time. If there are any, then that will be addressed in terms of final approval. But so yeah, we are proposing that the directors approve the updated DBE goal for federal fiscal year 24 through 26 with a new goal of 6%. Does anyone have any questions? And I appreciate your patience with me.
Good job, Heather.
Thank
Any
you.
comments or questions for Heather? Carol.
Thank you. I've struggled reading the staff report because I had to look up what is DBE. I would recommend outlining it early on, just for those of us who don't know what we're talking about. But I also, and it could be because I am not conversant in the language of transit particularly, but I don't understand what the vendors, what is it that I didn't really understand what you're talking about is the bottom line. So I don't know what the DBE goal is. I don't know what the, how you determine what the percentages that you're describing here, the goals. I just needed in my own mind a little bit more background so I understood the context for what you're describing. Also, just as an aside, I would recommend in your slide presentation, double check the availability. If you can make the columns less narrow, you get the whole word in there.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Thank you for that.
Anything else for Heather? Go ahead. Yeah, Heather. Other Heather.
If I can just jump in maybe and offer Heather a little bit of assistance, I'd like to try and address Carol's remarks. So disadvantaged business enterprises, Heather said, is a federal requirement. We do not certify the vendors. We allow the state of Arizona, the Arizona Department of Transportation and City of Phoenix to conduct that process on our behalf. And then what FTA requires us to do is say, if you have $1 million in contracts and there are 75 vendors that could supply that $1 million worth of work, how many of them are certified DBEs? And then you have to determine, so then right? So it's 75 contracts and 7 of them are registered DBEs. So 7% of the contract opportunities of $1 million could be fulfilled by DBEs. That becomes then, quote, the goal. But the extra step that we do, that Heather did, was look at what is past participation to adjust that goal. That's the final thing that we have to do. So I agree, Advisor Covington, this is a very complex topic if you're not familiar with it. And I'm so appreciative that we have Heather who really understands all the ins and outs of this particular issue. But we can definitely make the improvements that you suggested, but I do want to check in, Carol, and see if that helped at least explain what we're attempting to do.
It does. I thank you very much for that. I think that having a little bit of an overview of what we're talking about would be useful. I don't know if the board is familiar or not, but that was just a thought. And thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. Thanks, Heather. Both Heathers. Next item on the agenda is cybersecurity policy. Oh, board only, Heather?
Yes, this item was presented to the TAC several months ago, was never presented to the board, so it's going to the board now for a final adoption.
All right, great, thank you. Next item, Mountain Lions New Vision, Heather.
Okay. I'm gonna try that again.
I don't know if it has to do with the location.
Let me give it a shot.
Rhonda, we have a phone number keep coming up.
Yeah.
All right, so the next item that I have for you is follow-up to last month's joint meeting in which our consultants TransPro walked the board and TAC and staff through a process of, is our vision right? And if we're going to change it, how would we change it? So here is the existing vision, which really was about why Mountain Lion was created. So it served its purpose in what would the vision be around creating a transportation authority. So the idea was to come back and update it to something more about why Mountain Lion exists and what we should be doing. And so with the help of the board and TAC, yep, we'll advance.
It's still not doing it. Okay.
It worked once.
Huh. Okay.
So this is what was developed during that meeting. Leading, connecting communities and enhancing quality of lives through sustainable transportation. We did trust TransPro to take that and wordsmith it a little bit. And so I am back today to present what is a finalized proposed vision for the board's consideration and adoption. I would appreciate your feedback on what has been proposed. Really, we're trying to make sure that the proposed final version respects the intent of this statement that was developed with the TAC and the board's input. So next slide, Rhonda. So taking all of those words, scrambling around in a pot, the final proposed vision would be leading the way with sustainable transportation that connects our communities and provides value for our residents. So with that, I will pause for any input that you may have or feedback before we take this to the board of directors.
Comments, feedback for Heather? No comments or questions.
Great.
Okay.
So we can move on to the next item.
And the last item is the updated guiding principles, our new core values, which will also be Heather. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. In addition to working on the mission and the vision at the joint meeting, staff have been working on restating what we are now calling core values, but you will affectionately know as guiding principles. The guiding principles were adopted at the same time as the original mission and the original vision. The staff really felt that it was a good time to look at those using the kind of statements that are on the screen about development of values and how to determine what are the best values for us to look at. So our current guiding principles are treating everyone with respect, showing initiative, imagination, and creativity, collaborate to enhance service delivery, strive for continuous improvement in all we do, put the customer first, be environmental stewards, be trustworthy and dependable, be fiscally responsible and responsive to changing demographics, and view risk as opportunities. I think staff overall was in agreement. There are a lot of really good parts to the guiding principles, but we wanted to take a run at it and make it stronger in supporting mission, the vision, and the strategic plan of the board of directors. So we went through several iterations. Next slide. So the first version of the core values was developed by 3 staff members to just get the conversation started. And so those are on the screen. The determination was that there would be 6 values: respect, trust, innovate, collaborate, customer commitment, and sustainability. A lot of those words are similar to what you see in our existing guiding principles, but pulled out and stated a little bit differently. That team felt like there was 2 parts to our core values. The I statement, what am I as the employee committing to do? And the we statement, what are we as a team committed to do in the work that we do? Next slide. Those values were then presented to our leadership team here, and the leadership team thought they were a little bit wordy and they would like to simplify them. And so this is version 2 of those. You will note that there was some changes to the 6 core values of respect, customer commitment, collaborate, were all maintained. Innovate was changed to embrace challenge, and then accountable and communicate were added in place of sustainability and trust. I took both versions of these from our team and our work here. I sent them to TransPro and asked them that based on the conversations they've had with our team over 2 different workshops, their knowledge of our strategic plan, and the work that they did with the board and the TAC last month, setting the new vision and discussing the mission, and see if there was a hybrid of these 2 ideas, 1.0 and 2.0, and then the core values that are currently proposed for board review are on the next slide. Going back to the 6 customer commitment, collaboration, respect, adding integrity, innovation, and adding back sustainability. So the values of these 6 categories is a combination of 1.0 and 2.0. And we would appreciate your feedback on these before we move them forward for board discussion. I will just add, we are not asking the board to adopt core values. We believe that core values are what we as a management team set and maintain to support the mission and vision as adopted by the board and the strategic plan. And with that, I would appreciate your comments, feedback, if you have any.
Thanks, Heather. I appreciate you showing the different iterations to kind of understand how you got to this point. So thank you.
Of course.
Comments or questions for Heather? Michelle.
I really like that you've added sustainability into this, and I like the language. I think that's I'm very impressed that that's added in, and I think it's a really good one, good core value for your staff. Thanks.
Thank you. And I will recognize there was a lot of discussion about sustainability. And if I can share, one of our staff members' points is that sustainability is an outcome. And I agree when we talk about the language that was previously here, but I do think the revised statement that TransPro has suggested really talks about sustainability as a value in what we do as employees who work for Mountain Line. So thank you for that feedback.
Other thoughts? No, it looks, I mean, it looks good. And I agree with Michelle. Thanks for saying that, Michelle. I think sustainability needs to be in there with everything that we're working towards. So, anything else for Heather?
This is Carol. In integrity,
Yeah.
The parentheses around always exclamation point seemed to me to be a little bit goofy. I wonder if there's some way to just incorporate the word always, I value always doing the right thing, or something akin to that.
Thank you. I can look at that. And I think the goal of the team was to say, I will do the right thing even when no one is watching, was kind of the statement used here. So I will go back to the team and ask them how they would like to incorporate that word always in a more effective way. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Anything else? Okay. Looks good, Heather.
Thank you. Thanks for your input.
And then Heather, just remind me, consent agenda, that just goes to the board. There is no review here, or right?
It's working.
It is working. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, Ron and I are mousing at the same time. The consent items are items that generally are approved by the board in one motion, unless they choose to move them off in singular discussion. So we are available if you have questions on those items, but they are not agendized for discussion or presentation. Correct.
And then as a reminder to everybody, progress reports, they are sent out to be read in advance. We do not necessarily review these, but if anybody has a question on any of those, now would be the time to ask a comment or question on any of the progress reports. Okay, hearing none. Heather, summary of current events.
Yes, I have to walk back to my computer where my notes are. So a couple of current events. If you missed the fun yesterday, I'm sorry that we didn't see you. But a couple photos of the event yesterday was the Downtown Connection groundbreaking, and I still am overjoyed and excited about the community support that came out to have an event that the entire city council was in attendance. All of the board of supervisors were in attendance. NAU was there, CCC was there. So many of our community partners were present. And we're just so grateful for the support of this community for Mountain Line and that event. So here is some kind of, again, just quick brief looks at the building, some of the activities around that groundbreaking. Here's the ceremonial pile of dirt and our beautiful mountain lion inspired shovels. Thank you to Jackie for making those happen. And then the officials that were able to join us for that groundbreaking, we are very thankful. FTA Region 9 Administrator Ray Tellis made the journey from San Francisco to be part of this event, and Representative Cook from the state legislature was also able to come up from Phoenix to join us for this event. And it was just great to have, again, all of these individuals come together to celebrate our Downtown Connection Center. This has been many years in the making, and many of our staff have participated in this project over the years. The grant was awarded in 2019. It has taken us this far to really get to a construction agreement with FTA to allow us to build. And part of that is that innovative funding that we used, where we are using the City of Flagstaff land value as local match for the federal dollars for making this project happen. And so I'm just so appreciative of all of the staff that came out and that has participated in this. The building itself is another 18 months to 2 years before we'll be occupying it, but we're very excited to see it happen. And really, we view this as a beautiful community asset as people come into our downtown area, and excited to bring that forward. So thank you to everyone here that joined us yesterday. It was a really fun event. Anniversaries, I'll share with you. We have 7 this month, including Rhonda. Rhonda celebrates her 12th anniversary with Mountain Lion this month, and we're so grateful for everything she does to support you. But when she's not planning board and TAC meetings and events, she is critical to many of us with our calendars and scheduling and questions and keeping us abreast of things. And so very thankful for Rhonda and her 12 years of service. Other anniversaries, Leah de la Tour is our accounting tech 1. She just took over front desk duties, doing customer service at the front desk in addition to her accounting duties. She's celebrating her first year at Mountain Lion, as well as Michael Linging, who is a transit operator, celebrating his first year. Michael came to us from Schwann's. He was a Schwann's truck delivery driver, but has long roots here in the Flagstaff area, and we're glad to have him participating here as a transit operator. Jen Petrie, also a transit operator, celebrating 12 years of service. I actually was shocked to see it's only 12 years because I think Jen's been here as long as I have been. She's absolutely fabulous. Our riders love her. We regularly get very kind notes about Jen. She used to drive Route 5, serving the Falla School, and she went out of her way to celebrate those students on their journey through high school. Tamara Pittman is our accounting tech 2, and she is celebrating 7 years of service. A little bit about Tamara. She actually started out as a driver here at Mountain Lion and moved into our administrative functions. She's working on her accounting degree at Northern Arizona University right now, and we're very excited to have her continue to grow and develop and be interested in staying here at Mountain Lion. The next 2 employees are actually MetroPlan employees. Karen Moeller has worked for Mountain Lion as a transit operator, a paratransit operator, a dispatcher, customer service clerk, community outreach specialist. She's done a little bit of everything here. She's a real dynamic individual. Just 2 weeks ago, she took a job at MetroPlan, and she is their clerk of the board now. So but she is celebrating 9 years of service, and I didn't want to overlook that. And our very own Dave Wessel, who is on today's call at MetroPlan. Dave has a lot of years of service with MetroPlan. We're actually celebrating his 3rd anniversary as a Mountain Lion employee, and that's associated with when Mountain Lion became the employer for MetroPlan employees for employment services. So just wanted to share those brief anniversaries with you, but let me pull up. I had a couple current events from staff since we have time that I will share with you. Mountain Lion received notice regarding our annual 5310 grant funding award. That grant funds mobility management, taxi programs, and ADA plus. The total award was just a little over $400,000, and we're very thankful for ADOT support and those federal funds for those programs. We had also received notice regarding our annual 5311 grant funding. That grant supports our van pool program and county taxi program. It's really rural transit funds. I'm sorry, it doesn't support the taxi program. This grant, the Mountain Line received our full grant award. I will say we received our full grant award under both of these funding sources. First time in several years that has happened. This grant will provide the opportunity to grow our van pool program from 10 vehicles to 22 vehicles. We did kick off a integrated transit into code study. The goal of that study is to codify transit into the city's zone and development processes. We did learn city staff are working on their own project to improve city codes to reach carbon neutrality. And this is going to be an opportunity for us to work collaboratively with them and use the grant that we received for that project in a very effective manner to have a full set of codes complementary to all of the things that we want to do, including transit. And we're grateful for the opportunity to work with the city. Mountain Line Summer Youth Pass is for sale. So if you know a child between the ages of 7 and 17, they have the opportunity to buy a pass and use Mountain Line Transit for the entire summer for a nice deal of $24. So please help us share that message out. Jackie and our marketing team have been working on the campaign on that. Ty Holiday is a senior at NAU, and he will be starting with Mountain Line and MetroPlan in our shared Montoya fellowship position. We are very excited to welcome him here at Mountain Line and MetroPlan. Just as a reference point, Mitch Reddy, who currently is employed with us as an associate planner, he was our prior Montoya fellow. We've hired several Montoya fellows right into our planning program. And with that, those are all of the current events that I have to share. And I'll turn it back to you, Chair.
Thanks, Heather. Well, happy anniversary, especially to those that are on the call. And yes, Rhonda is incredibly invaluable. So I always tell any future chairs, anybody can chair a meeting. Rhonda gets it all together for you. Any final comments or questions? Next meeting is August 3rd. And if there's no other comments or questions, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.